1, 2, 3. Ah. Coming Home Baby. We took this version from the City Champs. So, quick, not that it's super relevant, but just so you know why I picked this version is that I used to play in a band called the White Lions, and the organ player in that band was Kerry Frank. The drummer was a guy named Michael Duffy. We put out some albums. We did some very small tours. I mean, I like using that term very loosely. I mean, by tours, I mean we would go up a weekend up to like San Francisco and like play. We play a gig there, maybe a gig in somewhere around San Francisco, and then maybe a gig in San Luis Obispo. So it'd be like just a weekend run. But man, it was a lot of fun, and we did shows in town. We used to play at this venue called the Blue Whale. Actually, we just played one show there for our album release. It was a lot of fun, a lot of great memories, and I grew a lot as a player. The drummer in the band, Michael Duffy, he was really big on, man, you need to check out this band called the City Champs and this guitar player Joe Restivo. And man, so I studied his playing a lot. We'll look at that here in a second, but maybe just right out of the gate, I'm going to just off the dome here. I'm just going to talk about what comes to mind here. So let's start with chord voicings. Let's see, let me get my little split view action going here. Yeah, all right. So on the recording, the guitar player is just doing a power chord, so. But, since it's guitar duo, maybe you want to fill out the harmony a little bit, so I was doing this. All right, I guess we're doing green today. Oh, no. There's no rhyme or reason. I just kind of pick a color and go. All right, so we got this guy. And then I know it's a D7. D flat 7, rather. So, let's say this would be... I'm not going to talk about my penmanship. That's my new goal now. I talk every lesson about my handwriting, and I'm just... If I'm sick of it, I know you guys are really sick of it. It's not going to let me get any closer? All right, strange. All right. 7 hours later. All right, so what am I talking about? That's 4th fret. They let let me teach you guys. All right. But I was making it into a ninth. That's a safe bet. You know, flat 6, dominant chord. 9 is open for season for as far as an extension. So I just, hey man, get your James Brown on. All right. And then the only other chords, it goes back to F minor again. And then we go to A flat major 7. Let's see. Do this so we all feel a part of it. B 4th fret. And then the next two are dominant 7ths, so I'm just going to put that here. I'm a thumb over guy. You know, I know we have a lot of classical majors and people that have much better technique than me. You might do something like this. I'm a thumb over guy personally, but that's, you know, however you, whatever your vibe is. And this will work for G7 and G flat 7. It's just a matter of it would be, you know, a 3rd fret or 2nd fret, you know. And that's the chord. So pretty simple chordally. And even the melody is pretty, you know, pretty blues driven, right? So it's kind of coming out of F minor pentatonic. Is there any other notes? No, that's pretty much. I mean, there's the descending. You know, so you, like all those blues licks that you would go when you get up there and find this guy. So I have a feeling that Lucy and Jake, who I'm making this lesson for, they probably know this, but who knows? Maybe you're not Jake or Lucy, and you're just checking this tune out. So don't want to assume that you know this stuff. So I'm going to go up here. It's an extended pentatonic. People typically slide up on the G string. If you want, you can slide up even 2 more frets from there. So you got, that's what, 2.5 octaves, not too shabby. All right, we'll just leave it there. So, but this guy right here, when you get to that A flat major, it's like do do da 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 down, and that's how you land. Cool. So, so yeah, I think the original's in G minor or something like that. I was putting together the lesson thing. I believe it's Bobby Helm, or I think, is it Bobby Helm? Hold on a second. Just start firing off my mouth here. Hold on a second. Bobby Helm. I don't even know what's wrong with me sometimes. Mel Torme. Good Lord. So it's in G minor.
I'm coming home, baby, now. I'm coming home now right away. I'm coming.
They go down to F there.
I'm sorry now I ever went away.
Same deal, like.
So
So that's the original if you wanted to check it out. But I am partial to the City Champs version just because this is what really fostered my love of this tune. So so we covered the melody, we covered the chords. Let's just hear what Joe Restivo plays in this stuff. So let's just kind of follow along. So right there, mean groove. I think organ takes it first. Get the old chart back up here. So that's interesting, listening to that. Our chart said A major 7 because we are jazzers, but now listen to the recording. That's the root on top. And Joe Restivo does this cool little, unless he's tuned down a half step, it's going to be, so that'd be what, 6th fret, 5th fret, 6th fret. It's basically this shape, but on this string set. Because that way you can get the good slide down. I always like that. It always stuck with me. Yeah, right. Fall off. So kind of sliding off that flat 5. Pretty cool. So, you can take liberties with this stuff. It's all about soul. It's about attitude. There's nothing really to the tune compared to like a sophisticated bebop thing or whatever. So the whole thing that really carries this is like attitude and soul and stuff. So it's kind of take advantage of the fact that there's not too much to the tune. So now you can really you find other ways to express yourself. So. So, however you want to play it. It sounds like he's playing on the same string, but it's basically, so the whole tune, you can get away with just F minor pentatonic, like we're saying, right? So you got F, right? Using time, using articulation. It doesn't have to be super complicated notes. It can be other things that can create interest, right? So this is kind of a road less traveled in terms of like, a lot of times, oh, this is not the right one. Come on. Sorry. I had a buddy in high school. His name was Danny Stack. He actually ended up going to West Point. Really bright guy, athlete, just one of those, like just right down the line. He was super talented. He ended up flying helicopters for the military. I don't know. I should reach out to him. I haven't heard from him in like 10 or 15 years. But at any rate, Danny Stack had a dad that his dad would always, when we were playing basketball games, anytime Danny made a mistake, he'd be like, come on. So at any rate, so there you go. Now, anytime you hear me go, come on, that's where we think of Danny Stack. Shout out to Danny Stack in case he takes up guitar and he stumbles across this. He got bored flying helicopters. Now he's learning Coming Home Baby. Here we go. So, all right, back to our regularly scheduled program. Let's look at this guy. I refer to this as the Life in the Fast Lane pentatonic scale. Let me put the roots there so you can kind of see where it's going here. So if we were an F, why do I call it the Life in the Fast Lane? Well, if I go down to half, having those like, I think actually they play that up there on Zeppelin. But was it Black Dog? It's a little bridge part when they go to E. All right, I digress. What are we talking about? All right, Coming Home Baby. So that upper part, and you can grab this little trill on the blues note here. Let's make a. Well, I already made everything else blues, so the blue note is going to be green. All right. You can make so much music in just like those two strings. Let's see here. So we'll get into in a second why when we get to a D7, but more in detail. But just right out of the gate, whenever that D7 comes up, your blue note there. So if you think of like your D7, or if it was there's a D flat 7 right there. So kind of thinking about as you go along this tune, when that D flat chord comes up, you want to move from the C to I guess technically a C flat or a B natural, whatever. I guess, for a D flat 7 to be a C flat. So when you do that G7 and G flat, that's kind of like a blues section, bluesy part too, because think of the B natural and G7. You can kind of, So, you know, we think of sometimes blues notes just something you can throw in, but there it's those two worlds can, like, you know, if you had like a Venn diagram, there's like the cerebral theory side of jazz where we talk about scale tones and all these like weird scales and stuff. That's cool. But then there's just like, hey man, play the blues. You know, just, you know, don't overthink it. So those two worlds can collide, especially when you got something like this. I think was it I think Cantaloupe Island also goes to a D flat there. So it's, you know, it's a flat 6 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 would be a D natural, flat 6. You'll see that a lot. So anytime you see a flat 6 chord and it's a dominant, that's, you know, I'm gonna make another video about Lydian dominant and all that stuff later, but I'm getting sidetracked here, like I do. All right, this is what happens when you're in a room by yourself and you can't see people looking back at you. So let's talk about that right there. That's a cool little line. Let me back it up so we can get into it. Here comes the D flats. So what's going on there? Okay, so let's say we're up in this part of the neck. You got your F minor, right? Well, that's not an F minor. Let's see. Let's say it's like our, you know, just a standard, you know, a common. That'd be your F minor, right? That'd be eighth. If I wanted to look for a D flat 7 voicing here, I'm gonna kind of like, right? So within this, he's doing something like this. So this is where your sharp 11th is. So let's see. All right. So let's see here. We got a D. I'm gonna look in terms of D flat here. I'm probably sorry if this is boring, but you know, it's worth talking about to kind of start thinking about these type of things. This would be the 13th up here, or the 6th, the 6th and 13th. Typically, when it's like up there, we call it an upper extension. That would be a 13th, right? Because you go root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, 9, sharp 11 if you want. This is kind of like, and then 13th's way up there. Oh boy, oh boy. So you can kind of think of it as like, as you get farther from the root, it gets spicier, right? So if I wanted to arpeggiate that, you got the 3rd, the 5th, flat 7, 9. God, man. House is settling there. I don't know if you can hear that. A little cracking upstairs. Building's cooling off. So let's say that's the bones there. Let me fill in some notes so you can play around that stuff. So if I was here, and here comes the D flat 7. I guess you can throw that there, throw that there. So let's see. But what he's doing is he's going. So he's going from, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Da, 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 da. So that's a cool little lick there. Get some language into your playing, right? Blues. At that point, it's just blues, right? So that's the thing about as you're soloing, you know, I like to hint at some, like, you know, fancy stuff, whatever you want to call it. But really, you really could just play F blues over this and it would sound great. So. Minor pentatonic. Kind of like F minor pentatonic. That's kind of cool. So you hear like, so So there's that flat, there's that blues note again, right? So if, in terms of what we're looking at here, this would be here. And he's throwing another note because there's another whole step above that. And that would be the ninth up here. So if again, hopefully, I don't know, maybe like that, maybe not. So just 5-1 and when it's 5-1 at the key of F, so the fifth note of F, F minor, which is a C, and then 1. I think he's kind of playing on these two strings. So a lot of this stuff is like, you don't have to worry about picking super fancy notes. It's all about like strong rhythms and attitude, I think, if I had the big takeaways. And then the organ solo is great there, but maybe I'll just leave that at that. So, you know, have fun with this. I picked this for Jake and Lucy because I know you both are really great rock players, and which is what I started off as. So this is a good chance for you to kind of like, you know, bridge the gap. You know, there's some cool jazzy things happening on that D7 chord, right? But everything else you can just kind of blues out. So, you know, treat it like most of the tune you can do F minor, and if you want to dip your toe in like some exotic, of course you can't see my guitar, is it? Which is, you know, D flat Lydian dominant, which is a fancy way of saying D Mixolydian scale, but you sharp the fourth note. So 1, 2, 3, sharp the fourth. 1, 2, 3, sharp the fourth. Yeah, it's a beautiful sound. So, or you could just blow it off entirely, and I'm sure it'll sound great. Hope you have fun with it. See you later.